didn't happen in 49, 61, 63 or 69 when they reached the final. But the class of 2021 have delivered. Leicester City are FA Cup winners at last and are history makers at Wembley.
Hello, Matt Elliott here.
Hi, Alan Smith here.
Hey guys, Ian Hume here.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here.
Be sure to watch
Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV
for all the latest Leicester City news and information.
You can also subscribe on YouTube and various social media channels
for the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Come on, you foxes!
The Leicester Till I Die shop is now open.
For all your Leicester Till I Die merchandise,
Visit the Leicester Till I Die shop at our website.
They have blown their rivals away. They have blown us all away in truth. Premier League champions 2016. The amazing Leicester City.
Till I Die TV. Your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
Right, Chris.
All right. How the devil are we all? Welcome back. It's sloppy seconds time. Story of my life, that is. I'll tell you. Second show tonight. I've done the proper thing, though. I have got changed. Welcome along, Leicester Till I Die TV. Thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, please press that subscribe button and smash the likes on the video. And if you are listening on catch up on podcast, that just keeps going from strength to strength. Thank you so much. It's on all your major it's on Coke, honestly. It's on. Unlike some people who are on the red wine tonight, mentioning no names, but if you are listening on podcasts, all the main platforms, Amazon, Apple iTunes, Google, Podcast Addict and Spotify, well, this is where you can find it.
watch us on YouTube.
Listen on your favorite podcast platform
Or ask your smart speaker
to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
Ladies, you have been screaming for him. Well, no. Well, you've been begging for him. Now, put your knitting down. Put the crocheting away. Put the Woman's Weekly back in the magazine rack. Get in from the kitchen. Stop all that baking.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event of the evening. 60 minutes of football fun and banter with Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV. Are you ready? Let's get ready to rumble.
Are you ready, ladies? Are you ready? Julian, what the devil are you, sir?
I'm not sure if I'm ready after that intro.
I'm building your part up here. Do you know what I mean? You know, I've been inundated with at least one request of where we've been.
And that wasn't my wife.
It was you. I recognise the handwriting. It's no good. You can beg for more money. I can't afford any more money. The money goes on the show. I can't afford to pay the guests as well. How have you been keeping, young man?
Yeah, very good, very good. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's nice to see you again. Although, having said that, of course, you are, as we said earlier, on the red wine, which is following a Vindaloo. So I don't know. I hope you sat on the commode there.
It's in the side of the bed, ready if I need it.
Yes, I tell you. I can see that old quilt will be going up and down later on tonight, won't it? And not for those reasons. Chris, good evening. We are well. Hope you are too. Douglas, how the devil are you, sir? Good evening. Maisie, good evening. Welcome along from Devils United TV. Oh, he's saying hello to Maisie. She's saying hello, Doug. Oh, they're all getting on. They'll get on so well, all the viewers. Hi, Chris and Julian. Yeah, his wife is ready for you. She's there. Is she up to the screen? I presume you mean your wife and not your dog. I just want to make that point clear here. But everybody that's in there, you can see them if they've got if they're in green highlighted. Get over to their channels. Thank them so much. Give them some support back. They're supporting this channel with monthly contributions. So thank you very much to Maisie, Doug, and everybody else. Get over there and support them. So we've got a bit of catching up to do because it's been it's one of those weeks where we've had 2 weeks thrown together. So we're going to take a quick look at sort of last week's results and obviously spend a little bit longer on the weekend's results because there's some strange results coming through here. I mean, we started playing on the Tuesday and Newcastle went and beat Everton. Now, you wouldn't have put your money on that, would you?
Well, it's a massive fixture. I think. I mean, I've been surprised about a couple of Eddie Howe's buys, but I rate him very, very highly. And I think he's done well, and you can see the structure of his team, starting to work. Not just that result, and it was a big one for Frank as well. I sort of felt for both the managers because it was like a must-win game for both of the managers in the current situation. Frank just going in there, at Everton and wanting to do well. Great cup result, but then lost in the league, so the pressure was still on. Obviously, Eddie, he's had a bit of cash to spend, and it was a massive, massive game. And fair play to Newcastle, who came out 3-1 winners.
It is. I mean, everybody was lauding Lampard when he went in. He then had a bit, he's had this result, but it's early days. I mean, I like the players that Lampard's taken in. I think he's made some good, I mean, Van de Beek on loan is a excellent signing.
I think with Frank, though, he went to Chelsea at a time that they needed. They could only have Frank Lampard as the manager with all the embargoes. And I think the troubles came when he could spend big money and it didn't work out. And I'm sure he's learned a lot from that. I was surprised he took the Everton job because to just see him in such a bad place and he came so late in the window that, I mean, he has made a couple of great signings, but, he had to make them so late. And he must have known that he'd got half a chance of doing the business that he did with Dele Alli and Van der Beek. And I think me and you have spoke a lot about Van der Beek and we're puzzled about why his opportunities have been so slim at Man United. And, we've seen, his performance at the weekend and it still makes you wonder even more why he's not been involved at Man U. But what a great signing for me. Dele Alli is a bit like Lingard for me. I've never been a massive fan, but, we've seen him do really well. We saw Lingard go to West Ham and be a different player than we're aware of. And I know, although Mourinho wasn't popular at Tottenham, when he first came in, Ali started scoring a lot of goals just in the way that he played him. So undoubted ability. He's still very, very young. And I do, like I say, never been a big fan of his. But I hope for him that he goes there and really smashes it for himself and for Frank and for Everton. So, it was a bit of a whirlwind for Frank and, a tough result to take. So, it was a bad night on the night, but like I say, it was big for both managers, and it was just unfortunate.
It was, Rene's just asking us for Fofana coming back against Wolves or Danish side. To be honest with you, he's only just going back into training, so I wouldn't necessarily expect him back at all this week, Rene. And good evening to Doug as well. Welcome along. I mean, as bad as the result it was for Everton, Newcastle, one of the there's a lot of teams that, including Leicester, that didn't spend in the transfer window. But Newcastle, as we've seen, we will look at the weekend result as well. They are starting to put it right, aren't they?
They are, and I said when he first went in, not having the sort of charisma of a Conte or an MRI or something like that is going to be difficult. But I have always, rated Eddie Howe. I think I've often said that I think he'll be a future England manager. He's obviously a terrific coach, and you just wanted him to get a grip of the squad, bring in the couple of additions that he has, or the few additions that he has, seem to be key buys. And you would have thought he could make his way out, but when a club's in that position and the weeks go by, and if the results don't come, you can really find yourself, however good the squad is, in a difficult place where the position in the league table, it has a real mental effect on the management and on the team. And it's just nice that he's had those results on the spin that have, elevated them out of that. And I'm sure he'll not be relaxed at all, but he's finding himself in a much better position than he was when he took over. And now you'd look at them to kick on.
I mean, I've known Eddie. Well, no, I've not known him personally. Obviously, I don't, pop round for tea in the afternoon. If Harry Redknapp's busy at Sandbanks, I'll nip round to Eddie Howe's. But I've seen what he's done at Bournemouth since the 10 years since I've been down here. I came down here, like you say, when they were having to collect money with buckets and they've been deducted 17 points, and that guy came in and absolutely saved that club. Whether he's the long-term manager for them, I don't know, but he's certainly going to be the right manager for this transition period. And I think he is. I think he'll keep them up. I think there's 3 worse teams than him now. Rob said here, think bottom 3 now as it will go down. I do indeed. Now, Mike says here, buying safety is a joke. Feel for Norwich, Watford and Burnley. Well, Norwich haven't spent any money. Watford changed the managers more often than I changed my underwear. And I'm sorry, coming, and Mike, we're doing a quiz with you later. Coming from Man United and you saying about buying safety, I think Man United have to probably look at themselves and say, how many trophies over the years have you bought? Because you were buying big players and spending lots of money before anybody else was. In my attitude, I don't know what your thoughts are, Julian, but for me, well done, Newcastle there. But we'd all love that to happen to us. They've had many, many years of unhappiness. Good luck to them.
Yeah, Newcastle, in the last 20 years has always been a massive club off the pitch, regardless of what's going on the pitch. And you feel that it's just it's a club that does deserve that kind of investment, and and what they're going to do with it. I actually hope that Eddie Howe, I sort of see where you're saying, Chris, about will he be the long-term manager, but I'm hoping that he grows into the job, because if we look at like the Jurgen Klopps and the Pep Guardiolas, just for the two biggest ones, you can look at you Unai Emery's and your Conte's as well. Could they have done what Eddie Howe has done with Bournemouth? And I'd tell you something, that is a massive, massive ask. And it's almost, well, is it a better achievement than winning a couple of Champions Leagues? I'm not sure, if I'm honest.
I think it is, to be honest with you.
I do. If I'm honest, I do. It's such a difficult one to call, but he's brought that club from the brink of disaster, got to the Premier League, which is like unbelievable in itself, and then kept it there on an absolute shoestring. Yeah. So he's obviously a very good coach. He's obviously very good recruitment-wise, because he's never had the money to spend. So now it's going to be interesting to see on that flip side, with the money, is he capable then of buying the right players that improve the team? Because as we've seen with Man United, 34 or is it 43 million, Van der Beek never played. It's just like one of the most ridiculous transfers of the last few years.
I know. So, and there you've got a Man United fan saying that Newcastle are buying their way out of trouble. Pot kettle black, Mike. Sorry, mate, but it's true. And I think with Eddie Howe, he's quietly spoken. He goes about his job. And I think you've got to only look, I will say, at West Ham. And I was talking to a West Ham fan earlier, because we've just done the opposition review of our match. And Pellegrini won. I think he won something with Man City. I think it was the Premier League. I'm obviously not 100% following them, but he could do it at Man City, but he couldn't do it at West Ham, where he didn't have the budget. And all these big names, the Contes, the Mourinhos and all them, could they do what they've done at what's at a Bournemouth, like you say.
Yeah. I mean, I think I like Klopp and Pep. I think what they would do wherever they were, they would absolutely wring the best out of what they've got. I think they are that good that you see that players who go to those teams that do improve, and that's definitely down to the management and the coaching and how they guided along. So I think they would wring the best out of any team that they coach. But I think there are some managers that, if it wasn't for the money and what they could bring in, and sometimes they're quite fortunate in the fact that teams will click when they bring in signings. Not that it's anything to do with how they went about the recruitment. It just worked, and they were fortunate that they had the money to go out and get that player. So, you can look at your Paris Saint-Germain's, they do well, but should they not be doing a lot better with the funds available? We've seen Barcelona's, demise, lately, and Real Madrid to a certain extent as well. So, I think Eddie Howe, not to be underestimated, I really hope that he pushes on and makes that, a title contending team. It'd be great to have one more in the mix because Arsenal look like they're getting a bit stronger. Chelsea the same. Man U depends on the new manager. Man City already up there. It'd make the Premier League would be just the better for it if he could start producing a fantastic team. And I hope he can. I think he can as well.
I just love anybody, and I wish. Oh, excuse me, that's the Coke. I was going to say I don't have red wine, you see, but I just want any team, if it's not going to be Leicester, and I'm loving West Ham being up there in the top four. Don't know that they'll end up there, but, just another team to come because, these so-called six clubs have had it their own way for so long. They've got the broadcasters licking their arse, Newcastle, you've got the money, you go and smash it to them. But talking of a big six clubs, we'll come on to Burnley, Man United. I mean, there's a lot going on at Leicester. There's probably even more going on at Man United, and they couldn't even beat Burnley.
No, they've been the same, I think, under, like I said, when Solskjaer first came in, he just had that feel-good factor. I don't feel he really did anything that changed the way they played, formations or anything like that. He just made everyone feel a bit better about themselves because they looked like they'd had a beating under Mourinho when he came in and refreshed all that. And they got the results off that. But when it really came to the nitty-gritty, week in, week out tactics, for me, he seemed to be lacking. And he never had the track record before that. So it wasn't a surprise, if I'm honest. And I've heard people say they should have given him more time. I don't think they should have, to be honest. He's never been a proven manager, and he turned out he's the manager of one of the biggest clubs in the world. So it was just a series of circumstances that led him to to get that role. At the moment, I mean, I think the fact that they've got an interim manager. One, I think it's terrible for a club that big to have an interim manager. You shouldn't need one. But two, how are the players looking at him, knowing that at the end of the season, he's probably he's not going to be there. They're just looking
for the manager's role, is he?
There's no building, there's no progression. It's just it's a plaster over something, and to be fair, the plaster's not really working at the minute.
I've said this many a time, and I have banter with Manchester United fans, and I've nothing particularly, against the club. They've done well. I just wish more of them would remember pre-Fergie, they were just another club. It was the Fergie years that have made them what they are. But they are one of the biggest clubs in the world. They shouldn't, as you said, have to be putting up with an interim manager that will, is just ticking things over. If the old Man United would have gone out and said, we want you to come to us, and that manager would have walked barefoot over broken glass to get in there. We wanted Rodgers, we got him, towards, the end of the season, but we got him early enough to have a look at the squad. And I just think Man United, like you said, remember when we won the Premier League, Man City sacked Pellegrini or said he was going to leave at the end of the season. And at that point, the players stopped playing for it because they knew he wasn't going to be there. One manager who will be there next season, I think, is Sean Dyche, even if Burnley go down. I mean, this was a good point for them, but they've won one game all season, and we'll come obviously onto the weekend's games, but they're looking doomed this year, aren't they?
They are. I mean, the Chris Wood, like I say, it's not the signing I would have made as a Newcastle manager, but I know he's a big lad, and depending how they want to play, and if he likes a big strike, fair enough. But for Burnley themselves, they've had the last couple of seasons a slow start, and they've managed, to recover that, and the recovery is coming a bit too late for them, I think, this season, and I think they're really, really going to struggle to make those points up. And everyone knows what Burnley are. He set them up really well. They're a 4-4-2. They work hard. They play a little bit of football, but they're also quite direct. But they're not difficult. I think every year you're in the league, people work you out or find it easy to play against you more and more when they're used to playing against you. And the fact that they've had such a bad start, it's really like a mountain to climb. But I mean, like, Sean's done a fantastic job there to get him in there in the first place. And this is the thing where you look at clubs. If they go down and they sack him, you're thinking, it's a bit scruffy, that, because he's kept you in a wonderful place for probably longer than you deserve, and got you there when you probably really, under another manager, wouldn't have even got there in the first place. And I think they owe him a lot. So, and they've not really invested either, so it's been sort of on a shoestring, and he's done what he's had to do. And like I say, it'd be a great shame if they did get rid of him, but unfortunately that's how football is. But there should be a bit of understanding by the people at the head of the club.
I don't think when they went down last time, they didn't get rid of him. They stuck with him, and he brought them straight back up. So I just think this is the season that they're not going to get out of it. Rennie says if Burnley go down, we need to be signing Tarkowski. Well, Tarkowski, sorry, he's going to be available because his contract's run out. So it's a case of whether we want him or whether Newcastle, outbid teams and what money we were going to have. And if we'll come on to Leicester later, if we are doing that rebuilding, we want there. You also say, Rennie, is Ronaldo finished? And I actually read a thing in the paper saying that this second coming, if you like, is tarnishing his memories at Man United. Would you agree with that, Julian?
It's a real difficult one. I mean, like, the moment he signed, I actually felt sorry for Solskjaer because it was, it was not bigger than the club, but he's bigger than the manager, puts the manager under a lot of pressure. We've seen when he's been substituted, he's quite happy to demonstrate that, that he isn't happy. And it's a funny one. I don't think he's any worse than he was last season. I think he's playing in a team that isn't performing well. I think if he was at Man City, which he was linked with, I think he'd be scoring goals for fun. He'd be the top scorer in the league. There'd be a smile on his face. Obviously, that didn't come. And whether it was that thing that he would have never signed from him. There was the story about the Ferguson phone call. I think he's still a fantastic player, but he's playing in a team that they seem to have little direction in how they play. The players have been changed around, rotated. I think Rashford is at a low ebb of his career, even for such a young lad, where he probably needs pulling out the firing line. I mean, I don't know why they don't use Lingard, more. Sancho's coming into a bit of form, so they just need to settle the team for me. And I mean, I don't know if his career is going to be over.
I think probably his career. And I think Man United made a mistake to buy him. I think they only bought him because they daren't let him go to Man City.
I agree.
And I think he's an amazing player, Ronaldo. Love him or hate him, you've got to give him credit. He's an amazing player, and I'm sure even if it's maybe in the Japan League or the America League, that he will go on and still have a few more years. Now going on to the Wednesday, I mean, Man City basically Brentford, bit of a given there, 2-0. Norwich still fighting down there with a point against Palace, who had a good start but have gone a bit quiet. But I want to actually just touch on the bottom two games there. First of all, Tottenham Hotspur 2, Southampton 3. How did that feel, Spurs fans? You did us in the last minutes, and it wasn't quite the last minutes, but you were leading that. You were leading that game and you lost. A bit of like, I felt a little bit better, like, ching, one to us on that. But Southampton are a funny team this season. They can win what you don't expect them to and lose what you expect them to win.
Yeah, and I think with Arsene Houtli, he's obviously a very good coach. They have had a couple of big like down periods. Obviously, the defeat, against us, and 2 9-0s, and and but they've bounced back, and sometimes you don't understand how a team can concede 9, but then on the back of it, he comes back and he seems to have got them well organised, and they're a group of good players. You look at there's the Ward-Prowse in there, the strikers, they've got the basis of a good team, and they all seem to know the job. It's like a total difference to Man United. This team knows its jobs. The players in the positions know what they should be doing, and they seem very united. They seem behind the manager, which is a massive thing. They believe in what he's coaching them, and this season, and especially in I think it's about the last 3 months. For me, they've seemed like a team that they could go and nick a result somewhere, and it wasn't like a massive surprise with that result against Spurs, if I'm honest. But you do expect that when Spurs are at home with Conte just leading the game, that they're going to go on and see it out. So it was a turnaround at the end. But yeah, Southampton are doing really well at the moment for me.
I mean, I'm not just the first person to have said this, but I mean, everybody's sort of saying if Rodgers goes, blah, 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 Potter's going to be the one that we should be going for. I think Huttenhall at Southampton wouldn't be a bad shout.
No, I think he'd be a very good shout. I like him a lot. I mean, I think Potter's done well at Brighton. He had a very steady start after, Houghton left, and he didn't really, the season after was like a mirror image of Houghton's last season. So you're thinking, why have they brought him in? But since then, you can see it obviously quite a big improvement. The last season and then this as well, and they're in quite a good position. They keep nicking a result here and there. But I'm with you on that, Chris. I think Arsenal will be an absolute. If Rodgers does leave, although I'm not sure where Rodgers would actually go.
No,
but if he did,
but it might not be his choice, of course.
What, Chris?
It might not be his choice, so he might not be where he goes. But he's like you say, most managers to come back from 2 9-0s in 2 seasons and still keep Southampton afloat, if you like. I think he's a good prospect. Last year, Villa Leeds. Gerrard is having he can't seem to just get that run of wins together. And Leeds have suddenly found a bit of form that I think will probably keep them up.
Yeah, I mean, I always say with Leeds when I'm doing me £1 acca that's going to bring me $500,000 in, I always leave Leeds out because whichever way I go, they go the opposite way, and they're such a strange team. And on the day they can, they literally score goals and absolutely fly past anybody. But then other days they seem to turn up and people find them easy to play against, which is a strange one. With Aston Villa, we've got to remember that before Gerrard took over, the 5 defeats on the bounce. So the squad he's had to inherit was in a bad place. He made a great signing for me in Coutinho. So I think he'll need a bit of time just to, it might be the beginning of next season we'll start to see a few more signings in the summer, and then an improvement. And I think he will have to show that, for the Villa fans and the Villa board to. To stay in the job. But I think he's doing a good job. At Rangers, he quietly, without eyes on him from England, we sort of didn't really notice him. But if you ever did look, the results kept ticking over, and he turned the Celtic tide around. So he's obviously doing a good job there. He's coming here, and I think they're doing okay. I mean, on Saturday, the second half, I thought they were all over Newcastle. So he's getting something right. But it's not the consistency. That's the red wine coming in, Chris.
It is, isn't it?
It's not the consistency that he would like at the moment, I don't think.
Yeah, and I mean, we sometimes expect a lot from when managers come in, and it takes them a time to settle in. He's had one transfer window, he's had a bit of money to spend, and he's spent it reasonably well. But we've got to give him time. And then we go to Thursday's games. Okay, Arsenal, Wolverhampton, that could have gone either way. But obviously the big match there that we need to talk about is Liverpool 2, Leicester 0, coming on the back of the Nottingham Forest game. Now, to my mind, the Nottingham Forest game, it happened. We've lost to Newport in the past. We've lost to Wycombe Wanderers in the past. This is what the FA Cup is all about, is the shocks. I think the problem from Leicester fans was the fact that it was our local rivals. We haven't played them for 8 years. It was a big game. It was at their place. And I do wonder, and I did question how many of the players, because I think we've only got one local lad in the team, Luke Thomas, that was like, knew what it meant to the sort of the fans. The players just did not turn up as a man, There wasn't, you can't say like, well, this one player wasn't good or this one player wasn't bad. We got pummeled by a team that made us look like the championship team. And we came out against Liverpool. Brendan had come out, and for the first time, he'd really criticised his players. And we needed not to get beaten at Liverpool. Now, watching the match, I think Liverpool were kind to us, because I don't think Liverpool got out of second gear, to be honest with you. No. And I think if they had turned up the gear and they'd been really in the mood, they could have got 4 or 5. I think they were, being kind and taking it easy because it was a midweek game and they got another one coming up. I thought the West Ham game was going to be more important. But looking at that Liverpool game, were you impressed with Leicester? And this was supposed to be the big turnaround.
No, I mean, like you say, I totally agree with you. I thought Liverpool would have a chance, and if we had managed to score, it looked like they would just have pushed on and scored another themselves. It was, and like I thought the Forest result was absolutely disastrous. But to Liverpool, we needed to be, everything not to concede, stay in the game, and like you said, I think, they looked like they were in second gear. Liverpool, the game was quite easy for them. We didn't really create much. We didn't really hurt them at all. And again, it's disappointing. And I think it's probably a performance and a week that's been like indicative of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember us on the show at the end of last season predicting where we thought we'd finish this year. And we were all like 4th, 5th or 6th.
Yeah.
It's been nothing like that at all. We were all miles and miles away. And it's been one of those seasons where, again, are people used to, how to play against us? I'm not so sure. But there's just been too many, bad luck stories. Obviously, a couple of injuries in that, have you? But it's not been good enough by a long stretch. And something that we may touch on later is, Tielemans, because I do think he'll leave on the basis of where we're going to finish the season.
Yeah, I mean, Brendan's come out and muddied the waters a bit by saying no, he hasn't turned anything down. But I wasn't, like I say, overly impressed with the performance. I just don't know what it is, because the Brendan Rodgers that came in and has taken us those last 2 seasons, and the way he sometimes there's no consistency in his playing. He's consistently inconsistent. He's changing the team round. He came out after Chowdhury had that game in the back 4 against Liverpool when we beat them 1-0. And he was saying how marvellous Chowdhury was. We've not seen him near the first team since. Yeah. We can make excuses. I mean, I listed 9 defensive players that have been out at some point during the season with injuries, but And that's going to affect it. That's bound to affect it. Of course it is. You're not used to having a regular partner by your side. But like I said, to me, that wasn't the performance that I wanted. I think Liverpool probably made us look a bit good.
Yeah, like I say, we did. I think one of the things that, I've thought about, and I think last season when we had the injuries and it forced us into that formation, which was the 3-4-1-2, and it worked. And then we seem to have ignored that I know we've played it a couple of occasions, but we ignored it. So, for instance, I think it was on the weekend, did we play a 4-3-3 with Maddison either side of, and in his position is that number 10. And, if you're going to play Maddison, play him to that role, because it's the best position that he can play in.
Don't play him on the right wing.
If the team doesn't fit round then you have to pull him out and say, do you know what? He's not starting today because I'm playing a 4-3-3, so I'm going with Lookman and Barnes either side, which is the natural selection for that formation. Yes. And unfortunately, James has to sit out, or do you put him in the midfield 3? So I think he's not been decisive in the formations and the personnel that fits the formations. No. And we saw last year that the 3 worked. With the 3-4-1-2, Maddison in behind, 2 strikers, we caused teams a lot of problem. And I remember the Man U game, when we beat them quite comfortably. And, he's gone away from that formation, but then he's not got the right players in the right positions. And,
it reminds me a lot. Do you know when we had, when we came up from the time we won the championship, and you could tell what team Pearson was going to pick 4 or 5 games in advance, because it literally was consistently the same formation, the same players, and we absolutely walked the division. The next season, after we beat Manchester United, he seemed to literally be changing it. You couldn't pick the team from one week to the next, and you'd come off saying, "Oh God, that player played well today," and then you didn't see him. And Rodgers is kind of falling into that, and I don't praise the player, and Chowdhury deserve the praise. So why bring Ndidi back in? Because you're losing him in midfield and you've stuck him in defence. So why not put Chowdhury in? I mean, that said, I think it was a bit of a free hit because it was away after the first game after Forest, it was away and it was at Liverpool, so we probably didn't expect to win. But I just wonder. We'll talk about Rodgers later and should he go, but I just wonder sometimes about his decisions. But looking at Saturday now, back onto this week, again we're looking at Man United Southampton 1-1. Southampton doing a job on Man United.
Well, it was the same, a bit like similar to the Burnley game. And I can remember I was watching the game. And I think it was Paul Scholes, it was on BT, I think, if I'm right. And he came and he said at half time, Man United need to come out, get about the business and get another goal because Southampton are getting on top. And lo and behold, Southampton score really quickly in the second half. And they could have gone on and won it quite easily. They were the better team for me. The move for the goal was fantastic, and they created, a few other chances as well. So, and that for Southampton to go to Man United as punters would look at that and think, oh, that's a home win every day of the week, and it was anything but that. And again, that's where I think Man United now they're in such a funny position. I would imagine the owners, the fans probably can't wait for the season to finish. Some decision be made on a manager and say, right, let's start again, reboot, take stock, and they'll probably make a couple of signings. There'll be a few leaving, and then sort of get on the front foot for the next season. Right now, it's just sort of petering out into nothingness.
Yes, yeah, totally. And like we said before, if it is going to be Poch, just get him in. Because for me, when we got Rodgers in with those 10 games left, he saw the team that he was inheriting in proper competitive games, not pre-season friendlies. When you be honest with you, they're about fitness. You can't work anything out for, I don't think, from the pre-season games, but Brentford and Palace drew 0-0. Leeds losing to Everton. How Everton came round and got a win. Leeds having got a good point against Villa. Absolutely, they are Jekyll and Hyde Leeds United this season, aren't they?
They are, and I think the other thing with this as well, that it was a home game. I mean, I think the Everton fans seem really pleased with the appointment of Lampard.
Yeah.
And then he makes the signings. Van der Beek started something for them to get excited because they've not really had anything to get excited about all season. No. For that. And I think there would have been that euphoria around the stadium, and they had such a fast start. I think by the time sort of Leeds realised where they were, it was a bit too late, and Everton really had a strong foothold in the game that they didn't seem like they were going to let go. So again, I'm really pleased for Frank Lampard. He's a great lad. He did well at Derby. Chelsea, was he hardly treated by? Well, maybe not, because that's what life's like at the top end of the table. But
I'm sure he counted his compensation, and that gets him busy for a bit.
I'm sure he did, but and it would have been he seems like a clever lad who will take that on board and learn the lessons from it. And like I say, I thought, God, it's a tough one to take the Everton job. But, so far so good. I think a few more wins, keep them up, and he can start to look at, putting his stamp on the squad. And again, ins and outs. I think the Van der Beek and Dele Alli signings are great. I really do think they'll make significant improvement to the team. I mean, Van der Beek looked to have a really good game at the weekend. So, there's big plus. And, again, they've got really, Seamus Coleman, who's an absolute clubman, but, you'd have him in your team. He's like 100% week in, week out.
Yes.
You got Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin, there's some great players in there. So, there's plenty of room to work with, but it is a bit thin on the ground. But if we can get to the end of the season, finish mid-table, job well done, and then, look to build on that.
Yeah. Now, I did a prediction show the other night, and the Watford game came up, and I literally was just saying, Watford, please go down and disappear up your own backside. Because, I said this about Norwich earlier on in the season. Watford, you had a manager that brought you up. You were sat in 12th. You sacked him. You replaced him with a manager who couldn't keep following up the season before, but you thought he could do Watford. So, excuse me, that just doesn't make sense to me. And then you sack him. I'm so glad Brighton won. I really want Watford to go down and stay down and let a team come up that is going to give it a really serious go and not change the managers like underwear. And I know it's the Italian way, but, most managers in Italy, it's a 2-season thing. But, it's like a 2-week thing at Watford, isn't it?
It is, and I think, I sort of agree with it. It's harsh in its own way, but I sort of agree. But I think we want Watford to go down because we think that the owner is a bit of an idiot. And I would use stronger words, Chris. I know some of my female fans might be watching. So
exactly, you don't want to ruin the image they've got of you.
I'll keep that down. But I feel like we all want them to go down for that reason. It's just been ridiculous. When he sacked Nigel Pearson, when he looked to have brought it round and saved them, you're just thinking,
2 or 3 games to go. That was just stupid.
I know Nigel is a straight up, straight down guy, and if something was brought to the table that he didn't like, he would pull no punches. And if there's been some upset along the way, then that might be the reason. But you couldn't see any other reason why they got rid of him. But it's 1 in, 1 out. You can't. Ranieri. Was he the right person as he works?
Yeah, this is it.
And done well,
like you say with Pearson, you know what you're getting when you sign these managers. Pearson, you've only got to look on YouTube. You've got the ostrich. You got him telling a Leicester fan to go away and and don't come back, to put it politely. You've got him strangling a Crystal Palace on the go. This is what you get, and then they're surprised when he comes in and he argues with them. But, you're either going to give a manager and let him manage, or you're not. And then, like I say, with Watford, who the hell makes that decision that, yes, he got Leicester to win the Premier League, but that was with Leicester, who had come off a really good run in and were confident. And I think everybody appreciates now that it was as much, Pearson's team at winning it. And I met Nigel a couple of times, and he's a gent as far as I'm concerned. He has that side, that persona, but when he's talking to you and he's not on a camera or anything, he's a really, really nice guy. But, Roy Hodgson, he's got them like not conceding goals, whatever. But they conceded 2 there, obviously. But is he going to realistically keep Watford up?
I don't think he is. When you're talking about predictions, I think I had the Watford Brighton game down as a 0-0 because I really thought that Roy would get them super organised, and his first thought would be a clean sheet and can we nick anything? He's got loads of experience, but he was sort of waning a bit at Palace. So it's a real funny, but I don't know who else they would have gone to. They would have probably ended up going to someone who may be young and up and coming, but they've just gone for the other way and gone, loads of experience. If anyone can do it, he can. But I think it's a mammoth task. And like I say, we all believe the owner's an idiot, and we all think that they probably deserve to go down just on the back of the owner, which is a sad thing for the players and the fans alike.
Indeed. He's 75, Roy. Bless him and everything, but I don't know. And you do wonder sometimes. All it does really is make us appreciate our owners, even more.
Absolutely.
And talking about owners that are making a mess of things, Norwich City. They looked like they were about to maybe just scrape out of it, but Newcastle have started to win 4-0. This was one that you put a pound on and got a pound back on, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was always going to be tough for them. I still think they've got a real outside chance. But he does get them organised. They are playing better than they have done all season. I think the form lately, even though not been great, would have been better to, in comparison, to before Smith arrived. So you never know, but that was the likelihood was always going to be that Newcastle were going to, rise out of that position, and it seems to be coming to fruition. I mean, but I still don't think your Leeds are out of it. I think a few good results for a couple of teams, and all of a sudden there's quite a few now. Brentford, who have absolutely loved this season for what they've come in and brought to the Premier League, surprise package. You look at teams like that. We look at underdogs, and we all love underdogs and think, "Oh, brilliant, go on, son."
Yes,
and then the signing of Eriksen, see what that brings. But they now look like, if the form continues, they've gone from a slightly top half of the table, mid-table position, and they're just sort of every week seem to be getting lower and lower, and you just hope that they don't get sucked into it. But I think there's one or two teams up there that I think Newcastle and Everton are probably certainly going to catapult above that. And then if anyone else comes out of it and Norwich get a few results, it's going to be a real bad situation for one of those teams just above the relegation zone right now.
I mean, we are only ourselves 10 points ahead. We will look at the table later. Although it's a weird table because, we've played 22, Norwich have played 24. It's kind of one of those seasons, when you look at the table, and it doesn't really mean an awful lot, But moving on to Sunday's game, which is that Burnley, they like we said before, I just think they are. They put up a good fight, but it's not about putting up good fights anymore, And the guy Dan, the Burnley fan from Turf Moorhouse, is a good mate, and he says, "Oh, we always used to, we always come good in the second half of the season." But he's accepting he's down. I think his hope for the season is that that Blackburn don't come the other way, between them, but. I'm surprised Liverpool only got the one, to be honest with you.
I think, if you look at that result, you can it sort of sums Burnley up. Liverpool, one of the best teams in the league, one of the best teams in Europe. They've gone to Burnley. They've only managed to nick a 1-0. And I heard an interview with Klopp, and he just said he was delighted with the result. He knows it's a difficult place to go. They're a very hard-working team. They can be difficult to break down. And he was absolutely, over the moon that they'd come away with a 1-0. And it sums Burnley up because Burnley could lose umpteen games 1-0 and be just hard done by and just hard luck because they work hard. They've got this shape. They're difficult to break down. It's not often they concede many, but you don't really see them going the other way that often and scoring a lot, especially against the top team. So, they're going to have countless 1-0, heartbreak results just on the way that they set up and, what resource they've got.
Yeah. Having lived in Burnley for 20 odd years and having children there and taking them down to, that was the first games were Burnley games. It's bloody freezing in the winter. I'll tell you, the wind gets round there. It really is cold. But like I say, it's like Burnley. It is a difficult place to go to, but it's not as difficult as it used to be. And I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
And then you've got Newcastle again. They have. He's turning it round, Eddie. We praised him before. Villa, I was surprised. I predicted it the other way around, to be honest with you, Villa to get the win. But I think, as I say, to me, good luck with them with the money. I really, really do mean that. If any other club could have got that, they would have wanted it. And I just got a feeling, they're going to be safe.
I think so too, and I think I watched this game, and it was a bit like describing the Everton game, where the fans, the atmosphere, everything was really good for the home team. And I thought Newcastle came out of the blocks really well, but I thought towards the end of the first half, Villa started to get a bit of a grip in the game because they were awful for the first 20, 25 minutes. They couldn't get hold of the ball. They really marshalled Coutinho very, very well to the point where he had to switch sides of the pitch. But I felt in the second half, they really came into the game. And, for me, a fair result on performances would have been, a draw because I thought Villa very, very strong, lots of chances. Obviously, the goal that was choked out by VAR. But they were good in the second half. And I think the thing is, if you look at Villa, you think, well, they're a mid-table team coming to one of the relegation sides, but I don't think you class Newcastle as a relegation side anymore. They've bought well. You know, the investment's been good. They've invested in the manager. You can sort of see that they're a better team. You know that on that game. You know, that is a game that maybe early in the season they might have capitulated and a draw, or maybe got done at the end.
I was worried that they might let Villa back because they wasted a few chances.
Yes, they did.
Newcastle, you know.
But yeah, great result for them, and for the for the hang on 1-0 win at home. You know, it's a difficult result. It's a great result. I agree with you. I think they're going to come out of that, and I think by the end of the season they'll be absolutely mid-table, and they'll be sort of thinking in about. I think in a month's time they'll be looking at transfer signings for the end of the season, planning on next season, knowing that they're going to be in the Premier League and they're going to be hopefully looking at titles. I think the lad Byrne, although he's I think he's 29, so I'm always surprised when clubs go in and buy someone at 29. You think, is he past his best as a defender? Probably not. But I thought he was massive on that game yesterday.
And they haven't really. They've not. Yes, they've gone out and bought players, and it's you can look at the teams that have spent a lot of money in the January transfer window, and it's never a good window to buy in because everybody knows if you buy in, you're desperate. But they haven't gone out and sort of done a Grealish and spent $1 billion, and they could do it. It'd be pocket change for them, And Chris Wood, I don't think they bought Chris Wood as a goal scorer because he isn't now. He used to be, but he isn't now. I don't think a 20 goal a season man. But he gives you that height, that presence in the box, and so it could. And I think he was at Burnley when I'm not sure whether because of course Eddie Howe was at Burnley, so he may have had him there. And then we come on to Tottenham versus Wolves and the wheels. I mean, everybody was saying, and I said as well, Conte best decision that Tottenham have ever done. And the fact that they had to go to him mid-season. When he'd already turned them down, he could demand whatever he wanted, and he could demand total control and Daniel Levy to keep his nose out the trough. And he came, and it was going so well. They were unbeaten, and they came back against us and what have you. And 2 in a row they've lost now.
Yeah, it's a tough run. I still think. I mean, there's some players in the team that I'm not fans of. I mean, Dyer for me, I never liked him as a midfield player. I'm not sure about him as a centre back. Emerson, the wing back, for me, I don't know why they're not playing Connolly. I prefer him much more. I think you get more out of him in 90 minutes than the Emerson. But there's still, I think, shortages in there. They've got some really tidy players in the middle of the park. Would anyone in the top 6 or 8 buy those players? I don't think they would. No. Your Winks and what have you. Very, very good, tidy players, but they're not going to go to a club above them. So I think central midfield investment needed, and definitely in that back three. Love Son, and I think that he's obviously got Kane in there. More, there's some really sort of good options around there, but it looks a bit thin, and it looks like 1 or 2 areas are lacking. So I'm not surprised. On the other side of that, I think Wolves are quietly. Just a really, really good team.
I was about to say let's give some credit to Wolves.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, they seem to be below the radar. You think, can Wolves go and win there? I mean, absolutely. They've got some fantastic players. They really, really have. And again, we're talking about the Man Uniteds, and then we look at the Southamptons and all the players. So you're looking at the coaches now. The players at Southampton know what they're supposed to be doing. The players at Wolves. Absolutely to a man, playing to the formation, to the style, to the tactics. And then we're looking at your Man Uniteds and your Watfords, and we're like, either end of the table, but still, there doesn't seem to be, any uniformity about the way they play. So massive, kudos to Wolves and the guy that, the manager that they brought in. I think he's doing a fantastic job. And he has got some players who I think other clubs would be sniffing at. So, he's going to do.
I thought at the start of the season when they lost Nuno, because I thought Nuno was an amazing fit for Wolves.
Yeah.
And they've gone out and got another Portuguese manager, but I had them down as having a relegation battle, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
and he has done so well, hasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. And again, it's been that quiet thing where they sort of had a steady start. You know, it wasn't a bit like Brighton, who had the great start and there was a few eyes on them. They've really quietly, very unnoticed, gone about the business. And I think, again, another team that right now at this moment is in form. And I don't think anyone would fancy playing him, if I'm honest. So, you know, fair play to him, fair play to the manager. Great, you know, acquisition by the board. You know, they've obviously done their own work and it's paid off for them.
And I've got to come on to it eventually. It was the last game of the season. Static, good evening. How are you, sir? Julian, it wouldn't surprise me if Wolves finish between 5th and 7th. They'll definitely get a European place if they keep being consistent.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, Leicester West Ham. And wasn't it good to see a Leicester win? And if you're watching, you might be thinking Chris has gone mad because it was 2-2. It wasn't, because Leicester women beat West Ham women. And if you know Julian, you know he has got a liking for women's football. Were you? No, seriously. You reeled me in there. Nice one. You reeled me in. I'm just trying to say, I can't find what the final score was, to be honest with you. But I mean, yes. I mean, first of all, we should give credit to Leicester women. Well done. As I said, maybe, you know, they've gone from bottom of the league with no wins. They're now, it looks like they should be safe, and we'll be sending Birmingham down. We're third from bottom now. And they showed more courage and fight in those games than where they've gone from where they were to where they are now than the first team, the male first team. 3-0, Scott. Thank you. Yes, it was 3-0. I just thought, when I saw that, I thought, Julian, he'll be watching that. He'll be noting that for the next quiz, you know. But so, joking aside, well done to the ladies. You're turning it round. Ant, good evening as well. I'm better in the air than Vestergaard. He literally has a foot on me. Like I say, and get over and give Ant's Leicester fan channel a like. Great Leicester channel. Yeah, we've said with Vestergaard, 6'6" in his socks and 6'1" when he jumps. But I mean, looking at this, to me, this game was more important than the Liverpool game. Because I think for the Liverpool, I wanted to see a performance. For this, I wanted to see a win. And I was disappointed when I saw the squad, because I'm thinking, so you've dropped some players because you didn't think they performed well, but you've dropped them for one match. Some of them, you've only dropped them for 60 minutes. That's not like, I'm fed up with the way you're playing. That's just a slight little tap on the backside as they walk past.
Yeah, you know, again, formation, personnel. You know, I didn't see the game the other week, but I'm not sure what Luke Thomas has done wrong. I think we should be encouraging people like that. And maybe, you know, the formation, when I've talked about the back three, maybe would have, you know, helps a player like that at the minute. I still think he's a great talent. But yeah, it was, you know, it just seemed disappointing. You know, obviously we managed to claw our way back in. But then to lose it right at the death from a set piece, you know, yet again.
Well, it felt like a loss, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Of course it did. Yeah. You know, I mean, West Ham are a decent team, so you know we don't expect to go out there and beat them. But you know, from what we expected last season and what's happened this season, it's really, really tough for them. And I think we're just looking. I think you look every week for the players in the team to come together and produce something like we've seen in the last couple of years. Definitely. And it's like 80% of what we've seen. It's not quite. It's not quite where it should be, and I think we're all a bit clicking by that.
Ant says there, at least I'd elbow somebody. The problem is, Ant, you'd elbow them in the groin because you're 3 foot nothing. So, unless you take your step ladders on the pitch with you and climb up for them at corners. He hates me for that. He hates me. And Justin was back and now he's out again. So Luke Thomas will probably get another run. I mean, I was worried how the crowd would react if we went behind. And it was a typical, we had the ball in their box and they just counter-attacked us, didn't they? And the player, it was like butter through a hot knife through butter.
Yeah, we just don't seem to have the solidity that we've had in the last few seasons, and it's difficult to put your finger on it. Again, formation, players. I think I mean, for me, Sayonchu has been a shadow of what we've seen in previous seasons. I think he's had a really poor season. Vestergaard's come in, not really lived up to what he's done before. And I think that's definitely a position that we need to invest in. Obviously, Fofana comes back in. But it's just an area. And, I liken that to when, Man City lost Laporte. Was it Laporte? They lost for the season. And, Liverpool won the league. And then Liverpool lost Van Dijk.
Yes.
Then, lost the league. And it just shows you how important that position is. It's like I've always been taught from being a youngster, you've got to get the middle of the team right, the absolute spine of the team. Good keeper, good centre-backs, good centre-mid, good striker. And you can then live with maybe people around that not being up to that standard. But if that isn't strong right down the middle, you're already on a very shaky platform. And I think that's how we look at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know how true. Terry, I can't find anything online, but Terry's saying Sky reporting Rodgers is sacked. There's nothing up on.
Is it Book Rodgers?
Sorry,
is it Book Rodgers?
Possibly. There's nothing in any of the papers online, and I'm just looking at Sky Online. I'm looking in the in the transfer thing, which is tend to be more up to date. Nothing there, nothing I can see. So I don't know. It would be interesting. I'm just going to have a look on Twitter because you got Fabrizio on Twitter, who normally is on top of these things. What's a handball and what's not a handball? Can you help us, Julian?
It's a minefield because I know the rules have changed. So, watching what was the game last week? The cup tie,
Middlesbrough, Man United.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I don't really think it affected the flight of the ball as much as the commentators said it did, or it fell nicely for him. But I still think he would have been able to hook it over the keeper.
Honestly, Terry, you're banned. Okay, you're banned. I'm not going to give Julian the address for your wife now. I'm going to. How I have been panicking. Terry, I'm sorry, you're going to get it. Terry, you are going to get it. You really are. Nice one, though, Terry. I think you should get one of these. I really do. Anyway, back to the serious stuff.
The handball.
Julian, I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, how, the Middlesbrough guy, it hits your hand, but it's you that scores it, so it's not handball. I just don't.
No, it's. I think in the old days there was the common sense: was it deliberate or not? And that was the referee's decision. And I suppose VAR could, pick that up, and maybe go either way. The referee's decision if they thought it was wrong, but now they're putting it into specific circumstances, and it means probably someone could deliberately handball it, but then because he didn't score, it's created an advantage, but there's no free kick. So, it's a difficult one, and like I say, they change the rules every season. I know the refs had to go in this, they have to go into all the clubs and say, this is what's changed this season, so just so you're aware of it. And a lot of it doesn't always make sense. And, in this instance, I mean, I was glad Middlesbrough got the equaliser, if I'm honest, but, it did, even like, I think Lee Dixon was commentating and just said, definite handball, definite penalty, definite free kick. It's a given, no worries at all. And he was like gobsmacked that, they could perhaps, turn that decision around. So bit of a strange one. And there'll be another incident this season, I'm sure, where we think, blimey, have they really made that decision? And it's led to a goal or not a goal, or whichever way around it turns. So
the West Ham fans,
it's an odd one.
The West Ham fans are counting themselves really lucky for it, and that kind of sums it up, to be honest with you. But who, as a manager, with 2 minutes to go, which I think was the amount of time that was left, you're defending a corner, and you've got a defence there that has done reasonably well. We've not, they've had a couple of corners and not scored. And you don't bring another defender on because it's suddenly who's marking who, what are you doing, who are you replacing, and you've taken the midfielder off. Fine, it's Tillemans, but I called him Brendan Bellend in the post-match show, and I blame Brendan 110% for that draw, which feels like a loss. Because
due to the substitution?
Yes, because I just think it's confused them more than, not saying it wasn't a bad substitution, and you can kind of get, well, it's another defender coming on, but not at a corner. You don't disrupt it.
No, and I think, Daft, what I'm going to mention here is the 96 playoff final when Zelko comes on first.
Yes, I was going to say that as well. Yeah,
and everyone's looking like, bloody hell, what are they doing? Why is he doing that? And it takes your mind away from what you're doing. And again, I agree with you. If you bring on, a defender at a crucial time, you always say, if you're making a substitution, whatever level, I've done it as a non-league manager, he's ready to come on, and you're like, next time ball goes out, you're coming on. Then it goes out for a corner, and you go, hang fire a minute, let's just see this corner out. And then you just, like you say, it just changes the dynamics, who that guy was picking up. They're coming onto a fraught situation, no time to get into the game apart from, that quick moment. So, yeah, a bit of a strange one.
And, you're talking about a manager a player that the manager has dropped. He put Ndidi back into defence against Liverpool, and he had Vestergaard on the pitch. Oh, sorry, he had Vestergaard on the bench. Sorry. Yeah. So that kind of says, Vestergaard's one of those players that he was having a go at. I just don't get it. And to me, totally. Brendan Bellend, I'm a little bit naughty. Let's be honest with you, but I just don't get that decision. But but then again, next week we'll play Wolves, and he'll probably make a decision. He'll bring somebody on, and they'll score a hat trick.
I think the thing is on that, Chris, that you're really like destroying Vestergaard's confidence as well. Whatever you think about him,
yes,
and you need to build players up. To put if a midfielder had played centre back in front of me, and I think, blimey, what am I doing here? If I'm Vestergaard now, I'll be speaking to my agent saying, "Get me out of here in summer." It's not for me. It's not worked out for whatever reason. I've still got a reasonable reputation. What are my options? To do that, and I think. At times, is it down to Brendan, to coaching, man management, to get Vestergaard in the team and playing well? And if not, then he has to leave it, get rid of him in the summer.
And if I'm a Leicester City defender, get me out of here. If I take my blue tinted spectacles off and look at Vestergaard. He wasn't a bad defender at Southampton because, like I say, yes, they lost 9-0 twice, but it wasn't like he was the only person on the pitch. He's come into a Leicester back 4-5-3, whatever it is, because it changes every week. And so he couldn't settle in with a regular partner because, due to illnesses and injuries, he probably never knew who he was going to be playing with. And then he got injured himself. So he does need that bit of time, I think, to get in. Absolutely. He's got to be given. It's interesting that Perez hasn't seen the pitch in the last 5 or 6 games. And I suppose the worrying thing is that they are both Rodgers signings, Perez and Vestergaard, his first signing and his last signing. Yeah. And that is, you don't know. All signings can go wrong, but there we go. Ant says he's put £25 on Brendan to be sacked after the Wolves game. I just don't get what, apart from the fact that whoever comes in will have so many games to get used to the squad. I get that, as in when Brendan Rodgers comes in, when Brendan Rodgers came in for Puel. Don't sack him unless you've got somebody in mind that you can bring in straight away.
I totally agree with that. Totally, we need that. Going back to the Vestergaard thing, I think he was a good player at Southampton. I think we've touched on this before, where they were a team that were probably backs to the wall, so he was probably playing a little bit deeper, and things were coming onto him more. And I think it's a bit like, if you want to use a Leicester example, Wes Morgan, when we won the Premier League, we sort of sat back a little bit, which suited Wes, who is, at the end of the day, he's a Premier League winning centre back. Would he have got in a Man City team? He wouldn't have done. I always said when Harry Maguire was looking where he was going after Leicester, and he was touted for Man City as well as Man United, I never saw him as a Man City signing because of he hasn't got the pace. He's a fantastic, footballer, strong, good in the air. And this is a bit like Vestergaard. So do we need to adjust our tactics and play the way that suits the players that we've got? Like I say, a bit deeper. People play. You wouldn't have played a high line with Wes Morgan in the team, and you wouldn't with Vestergaard in the team because you're going to get done all day long. And that's where we are now. So while we're trying to play a formation that's maybe suits Barnes, it maybe suits Maddison, do we need to play a formation that's going to suit the defenders that we've got available at the time? Because that's the sort of area that we're really struggling with at the moment, and I think that really needs to be looked at. And
maybe he's trying to do that with he keeps swapping, the how many, whether it's a back 3, 4, or 5, depending on who's available. Scott says here, if Brendan stays till the end of the season and does well in the Conference League and keeps us mid-table, do you think Top will keep him? I do, because when we signed Brendan, it was a long-term project. And, I don't expect that he's going to be here as long as Wenger was at Arsenal or Ferguson was at Man United, by any stretch of the imagination. But it was a long-term project. He's bringing the young players through, Kieran Dewsbury Hall, Luke Thomas, those are great signings from the coming through from the academy. And if we get a new manager in, all we're going to do is rip up everything that he has put in place, because the new manager will come in saying, I don't want you, I don't want you, I don't want you, and bringing new players in. So we say, well, give them a season to settle in and see how and then you're back into the almost like a mini Watford sort of scenario,
Yeah. For me, and I've said this before, and especially a couple of seasons ago or last season, Brendan had a bit of kudos, and maybe some clubs a bit higher up the league would have gone, oh yeah, he's the man that we want. Right now, I don't know where he'd go to a club better than Leicester. On the other side of it, we've got great owners that aren't going to just change the manager at the drop of a hat. And I know it's a long drop of the hat this season seems to have been, but I don't see them sacking him. I see them giving him time, because really, if we look at it, it's probably the first bad season we've had in a few. So maybe this is a blip and we build from that. But I don't see anyone.
Do have blips, don't they?
They do, and I don't see where Brendan would go. I don't see a big club coming in and him thinking, "Oh, I need to go there because it's a better situation than what I'm in now." You'd like to think that he's going to stick by us, and for the loyalty that the club showed him, the fans, and especially the owners, and turn this season around, because it's not been what we expected, but we're hoping that he's the right man that can turn it around.
As like you say, everybody says, and I've got Liverpool friends on here, and they're all saying that it's Brendan's third season syndrome. Well, has anybody actually kept him for the fourth year to see what happens in that fourth year? They don't. Liverpool sacked him in the third year. It was 3 years at Celtic. I just think sometimes that let's just calm down, and we're almost a victim of our own success, if you like, because of the last 2 seasons. Talking of Dan, the Burnley man, who's going down the pan. Evening, fellas. Hope you both well. What needs to change if you were gaffer right now, mate? You should have come in earlier. We've gone through everything. Somebody. Keep him up. You'll have to sort of watch this back on play up. A minute and 13 into the show, we're starting again, Dan. You all right, mate? How you doing? So the hang on, is that the top or the bottom? Yeah, the table. Just very quickly, just to touch on this. It's Man City's or Liverpool's, isn't it? And I don't think Man City have definitely got it in the bag, but out of the two, you'd put your money on Man City, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think it's unlikely. They're not a team that's going to drop that many points. They've gone away to Norwich. All right, I know Norwich are down there, but it's been a real comfortable, game for them. And I just think they've got too much in the squad. He rotates it really, really well. We're talking about Brendan rotating it. Pep rotates it, but it's always the same formation, and the players always know what they're doing. And even if Foden plays in the middle three or the top three, and particularly Bernardo Silva as well, they just know what they're doing. But it's that it keeps the same formation, same movement of the players, and they just look like such a well-oiled machine. You can't imagine them dropping that many points between now and the end of the season.
No. Shows that I'm no good at predictions. I'd predicted Chelsea to win it this season, but they did win the World Club Championship. So well done, Chelsea, on that. The interesting battle is going to be for the top four, because I think any of those that we can see there, I think from West Ham, probably down to Tottenham. Well, let's say that maybe not even Tottenham now, because they've been on a good run. Could grab that foot. I mean, that's going to be more 4th, 5th, 6th. It's going to be better to watch than the actual, who's going to win the Premier League. Is who's going to get in that position. But more interesting even than that is the bottom of the table. You joined us just at the right time, Dan. Burnley, I mean, one win, Dan. Come on, 11 draws. You need to start making those draws into wins. He says, I do come late to the party. He's been trying to woo her indoors. It's not happening then, is it? You're not. She's got the old headache, has she? Now I know, Dan. Now I know. They look down, don't they? And I don't mean, saying that they are definitely down, because nobody is. But on their performances, you can't see Burnley getting out of it, can you?
No, you just look at the form there, and there aren't any greens. Norwich have even got a couple of greens in there, and I think it's massive for Norwich now to get out, because I do expect Newcastle and Everton to push on, and Leeds and Brentford certainly need a couple of wins within the next few weeks just to ease the tension, because if they don't, and Everton and Newcastle all of a sudden overtake them, it's all that mental thing as well. It's not just about going out and playing. It's that you play differently when you're worried about conceding. You don't play the same way you would week in, week out. So I still believe that they could get sucked into it at some point, depending on other results. But I think, like I say, whoever gets the next few wins out of Norwich, Leeds, and Brentford, they're going to be the ones that survive. But I do expect Newcastle and Everton to climb above, where they are now.
Well, you know what I'm going to ask you now, don't you? You're three, as you're looking at things at the moment and on the current performances, you're 3 to go down.
I think Burnley and Watford, absolute certainties to go down. I really can't see. The window's gone, and to be fair, the lad that Burnley have signed, the striker, looks a good acquisition, but I don't think it's enough, because they're replacing Chris Wood, who was a similar type of player, and they were still at the bottom of the league with Chris Wood. So they've replaced him like for like. Looks like a decent signing, but
I think they needed more than one player.
Yeah,
as well,
exactly.
Didn't they?
Exactly. They needed, maybe 2 or 3 to come in and really spruce the squad up. So I think they're doomed. I think Watford are doomed just on the changes. I think Roy might steady the ship and get a few clean sheets here and there, but I don't think there's enough in the squad to get the wins that they need to pull them out of that. And then the big one for me, I suppose, is it Norwich? Is it Leeds? I mean, Leeds have been awful this season, and Norwich have had, from where they were before Smith took over to where they are now, is probably quite a big advancement. So if they could reproduce that in the second half of the season, it might be a bit of a tight one for Leeds and Brentford getting dragged in. And I sincerely hope that Brentford pull the way out of it, because it's been a great story.
The only thing really that's against Norwich is the fact that they've played more games than everybody around them.
Yeah.
And it's the old scenario, isn't it?
To win at the moment, and the points are massive, even though they've played more games. 2 wins on the bounce, and all of a sudden, they're right back in the mix. But again, they are struggling. They've got some good players. Gilmore from Chelsea. Pookie. Can he produce something? But it's a bit bare after that, and that's where the worry is for them.
Yeah. And, Burnley have got 3 games in hand on Norwich. Watford have got a game in hand on Norwich. But I'm sorry, Dan, but it's 2 teams that you just can't see them winning the games in hand.
No,
Although, in fairness to Burnley, one of them is against Leicester, so let's not speak too soon, you know. But Julian, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great to go through that. And Doug, please don't come in with your bad jokes at the end. You always finish it on a bad joke. Why didn't Handel go shopping? Because he was Baroque. I'm sorry. You get that. That Doug, he makes me look funny. That's how bad he is. But ladies, you're gonna have to get your knitting out again, your woman's own, and your crocheting and all that, because we're going to see him it'll be another month till we see him. Always a pleasure to have you on, Julian. Thank you so much for giving up your time and doing this. Thanks to your wife as well for letting you come on and do it. I hope you've not sat there with your legs crossed after the Vindaloo and the red wine. And,
oh no, I mean, this is a typical Valentine's night for me. I'm in bed on my own.
To be honest, you see, this is me. I'm on my own, and I forgot it was Valentine's night. You know? What are you doing tonight, love? Well, I'm going on to Chris's show. Oh, right, okay. You know? I'm sorry, mate. You might have some big making up to do now.
No. We're all good.
Hey, you can tell you've been married a while, can't you? What, paying that for a rose? Get over, woman. You know. Take care. All the best to you and all your family. Thank you so much, Julian. Enjoy your golf if you get a chance to go out.
Will do.
And enjoy the red wine.
Cheers. Ta-da. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thanks so much to Julian there for that. That was brilliant. And if you're going to do anything for me, please just do this.
Watch us on YouTube.
Listen on your favorite podcast platform.
Or ask your smart speaker
to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
It's probably as well you can't see what I can see that Julian was doing. It was getting a very funny position. Let me put it that way. Anyway, Dan, if you're still on, I want to message you. I want to have a chat with you. Thanks to Julian. That's the review. Europe's back. Europe is back. Oh, Conference League. You know my thoughts on that. I don't think we should still be in Europe, because I don't think teams that don't do well in the Champions League, and I'm using Man United as an example here, but, you know, why should they come down into the Europa League and have a chance of winning the Europa League? Well, we know why they do it, because UEFA wants the money from it. So when I can't stand that, then I can't really stay here that, Leicester should be in the conference. We shouldn't, you know. I say we got knocked out of the Europa League. We should be out of it, but we're in it. Those are the rules at the moment that we have to live by. So I hope we do go on and win it. That would be great. If Brendan, and I know it's a big ask because he's not the most successful manager when it comes to the European games, but I mean, Randers, come on, it's first legs at home. Brendan, you got to get those players G'd up, because if we don't, well, not say a walloping, but they're the lowest ranked team. Brad informs me they're the lowest ranked team in Europe at the moment that are still in European competition. If we cannot at least take a win, because I don't think there's any away goals now, so if we can't at least take a win of some description over to Denmark, we've had our bacon. Now, that's a joke, Doug. Danish bacon. Do you see what I did there, Doug? That's the joke. Guys, thanks very much. I will see you tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. Don't think Brad's going to be with us. He is otherwise engaged. Hopefully, Steve will be back this week, and we'll be doing the prediction show. It's tight at the top. I've caught Brad up. Yes. Brad's had a couple of bad weeks. Can I go above him? Find out tomorrow, 9 o'clock on the prediction show. Thanks very much for everybody that's been watching, everybody that's been commenting. Thank you so much to the mods that have been in. Thank you so much to Daisy and Doug for the support that you give the channel with your subscriptions. And if you're catching up on podcast, thank you so much for listening. The podcast, like I say, it just astounds me how well the podcast is going. I will see you tomorrow night at 9. Thank you very much. Take care. And remember what I always say, don't do anything I wouldn't enjoy. Leaves you a lot. Good night.
Leicester Till I Die podcasts on the Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, Anchor, and all podcast platforms.
The Leicester Till I Die shop is now open.
For all your Leicester Till I Die merchandise,
Visit the Leicester Till I Die shop.
Leicester Till I Die podcasts on the Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, Anchor, and all podcast platforms.
The Leicester Till I Die shop is now open.
for all your Leicester Till I Die merchandise,
Visit the Leicester Till I Die shop at our website. Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
That's all, folks.
Some people are on the pitch, they think it's all over.